Welcome everybody. I'm just going to give it a couple minutes here for attendees to load up. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
Still see attendees loading here, so we're just going to give that some time.
Wonderful.
I don't think I'm getting good audio from you.
What about now?
Yep, perfect.
Perfect. Using the wrong microphone.
Still see a few loading here. Yep, they're still coming in. I think we're good to get going, and the few others can filter in. So I'll start with the typical stuff. We have the chat available to everyone here. We love the discussions. Feel free to, chat within each other, chat with us. And of course, if you have questions you would like answered, I'd prefer you use the actual Q&A. That allows us to track us, make sure we've responded to all the questions, or get back to you later if we don't have an answer. So with that said, welcome to the
Also, just
webinar. We're going to be, go ahead.
to call out, if we say anything wrong, jump in, correct us. Yeah.
Yeah,
Microsoft
absolutely.
is a complicated topic.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
So welcome to the webinar where we're going to talk about Defender Threat Policies and obviously our new release in Augmentt that we hope assists you in making that much easier to manage. So a little bit of the topics we're going to cover today here. Tried to make them cheeky titles here, but why it's a must. Why is this important for us? What's the plan? And that's kind of a little play on words here. And obviously the intricacies of deploying policies. And then how can Augmentt actually help facilitate all that? So we'll jump right into, start with some statistics as to why this is important. David, did you want to touch on this one?
Yeah. So I know that we all in this space understand the concepts of like why it's important for you and your customers, but I think having some numbers presented really kind of puts the perspective into play. So I grabbed a couple different stats for a couple different areas. This one's coming from the FBI from September 2024. With business email compromise, we hear that constantly from our partners about how they can help address that, and it's a growing industry. With it $55 billion a year scam in the States as of 2024. And we know from the other stats that we're going to show you that that number is only going up. And over 90% of all attacks are coming from business email compromise. It's not the malicious hacker brute forcing their way into your accounts. It's someone clicking on something that they shouldn't have in their email and letting people in intentionally or yeah, not intentionally, but accidentally in that regards.
Yep.
So yeah, business email compromise is huge, and phishing is responsible for the majority of that. You can kind of see phishing at the bottom of this chart here. This again is coming from the FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center. With over $12.5 billion of losses in 2024, phishing dominates everything else, be it tech support, extortion, non-payment, non-delivery, or breach of personal data. Um, uh, Getting on top of phishing is a real challenge, and it's coming at people from all different areas. One of the ones that we don't not it's not really addressed by Defender, but I'm sure people have seen it of fake ads for companies that we all interact with on social media. But they're actually phishing links or they're actually fake businesses. I got one for a Starlink, which is a too good to be true classic phishing or a scam setup. It was too good to be true. The price was great to get some Starlink set up. And it was very, very convincing. And so we're seeing that translate now into people's social media life that they hadn't experienced before, because advertising has historically been pretty protected, and it's definitely a problem in the business email world.
Yeah, even if it's a little bit aside of the exact topic, I mean, they're getting really good on things like Facebook Marketplace ads, where they'll place ads and they'll make them realistic, but they'll make them the best incentive. Wow, they must catch so many people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's, to this point, unfortunately, humans are still the weakest link when it comes to cybersecurity. I don't know that that will ever change. And so, as they say here, 74% of all breaches include the human element. And I mean, we've almost been experience similar things at Augmentt where we get the email from the CEO, and then luckily we have amazing internal processes, and so we go and check, was this real? And they're like, no, absolutely not. And I'm like, that was a convincing email. Um,
Derek didn't need $500 in Apple gift card sent to him.
so we've definitely seen some very interesting and convincing stories from many of our partners as well.
Yeah.
So let's jump a little bit into, what this means from a Defender Threat Policies perspective, and why business email compromises and phishing and anti-spam are extremely important. Um, so let's touch a little bit on the differences between them. Hopefully we all know this, but it's good to revisit, right? From an anti-phishing perspective, this will be that capturing those impersonation elements as much as possible. Whereas the anti-spam is basically is just a feature for that mass junk
Yeah.
mainly, and that junk will often contain emails, one of annoyance, and secondly, probably directing to malicious sites, etc. Then you have
Yeah.
your anti-malware, where files might be attached to the emails, files or documents or links, etc., that are essentially scanned to ensure that they aren't, malicious viruses, Trojans, etc. And then the safe attachments and safe links are actually just levels of the malware portion tied to licensing.
Yeah. The one thing just to call out on the anti-malware, I'm sure everyone's up to date, has their Windows Defender or other anti-malware software running on their machines, their customers' machines. One of the growing trends is fileless attacks. So software that runs in memory and separate entirely from the traditional signature-based antivirus defenses, and those are coming from these links and staying on top of that. So the traditional methods are there. People are finding ways to take advantage of new and different techniques to
Yep.
avoid detection.
Yeah, good call out. So a little bit of how the anti-phishing portion really comes into play, right? So it typically starts in our case with an email. The email will have pretty convincing argument within it. So this is where education is obviously extremely big. And then the user thinks they're clicking on something absolutely legitimate and will definitely attempt to log in. And this is where, the credentials are harvested so that the hacker can get into the original site. So this is where you get the biggest human element out of like all the features that we're talking about here.
And one of the things, like, you for phishing, you don't even need to log in for the attacker to get access. The biggest growing trend on phishing attacks is just cookie hijacking. So in the user's browser, there's a saved cookie that contains the authentication for them to get into Entra or their other systems. And so just by clicking the link, the attacker's able to harvest those credentials, inject it into their own browser, and it user impersonation. It looks as if Robbie's logging in. The MFA token's valid because he logged in through a legitimate MFA, and all of a sudden they are able to do whatever they want that Robbie has permissions to do in his environment. So they could set up a new user account, or set up email rules, all while this cookie set should while this cookie's valid. Um, so even having the user be aware of like don't log into suspicious links um, often isn't enough.
So more statistics on specifically this spam portion of things. So you found this one, but although there's been a decline, probably due to good tools, being able to reject a lot of this stuff, it's still at least nearly 50% of our emails
Yeah.
whenever a tool isn't picking it up at the endpoint.
And it just goes to the noise. And then we all hear about like MFA fatigue, people getting tired of like constantly getting prompted for MFA. We kind of get blind to phishing. Um, and so if your email inbox is 50% phishing or spam emails, eventually there's going to be one or two in there that are convincing enough for the user to initiate a breach.
Yep. So what's the plan? We're talking about
Defender.
Microsoft plans, of course, because
Yeah.
everything is a plan with Microsoft. And look, I want to start by like we love to poke little jabs at Microsoft. Obviously, we live off of creating a Microsoft-based product. Microsoft generally is great. It's easy to I was just thinking about this personally. It's very easy when you go read online to see people complain that, oh, Defender for Plan 1 is why is that a paywall? That shouldn't simply be included, etc. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, when I build a house, that house comes with, 10 millimeter screws for my door latch, unless I pay for the extra beefy 4-inch screws and the metal door and the reinforced bar. And it's kind of the same approach, right? Is everything costs money. And when you start looking at the features that are included inside of Defender for Office Plan 1 and Plan 2, and I mean, Plan 2 starts utilizing AI. We know that none of that stuff is cheap. And so while it's easy to say, oh, Microsoft, you've got a ton of money, and why is this stuff paywalled? Well, really, it's because it just costs a lot of money. Of course, they're also a business and they want to make money, but it seems obvious to me that some of this functionality is just, look, here's a tool, and then here's additional tools like buying video cameras and fences and better latches and so on and so forth for your house to protect it. And that's where in this case they happen to be from the same vendor.
And it comes back to the conversation that we have with conditional access policies, where security defaults may be completely fine for a small 4 or 5 person business where the exposure really isn't that high. Their revenue isn't that to the point where they put a target on their back. So spending that extra 10, 15, $20 per user for a P1 or P2 license is throwing money into a fire. But as you grow into those licenses, different businesses require different needs. So if you're dealing with like anything on like the government side or your high-end R&D company that you really want to be protected, you buy that P2 license and you really lock things down with Defender with a plan 2. So
Yeah.
it just
One
comes down to the business.
one of the major challenges for MSPs I find is um, you have, because you're supporting multiple customers, you have the problem of enterprise level issues with essentially many small budgets rather than one large budget that the enterprise level company would have, right? So as it says on the slide here, like all these level of protection are capable of protecting, detecting, investigating, and responding. But as you move up the protection ladder in terms of the plans and features, right, the available features and the automation increases. The
Mm-hmm.
problem is efficiency is everything for MSPs. You need that automation across all your customers, but all those customers don't have the typical budget that an enterprise would have to easily afford the plan too, which is where your life becomes a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
I wanted to give kind of a high level per feature area or per policy type, what you can expect to get, right? So you do have your uh, basic licensing. Like if you've got Microsoft Basic or Standard, you do get this anti-phishing policy functionality, anti-malware, etc. And then there are specific features that become available if you've got Defender for Exchange Plan 1 and uh, some functionality is limited depending as well. So we'll be able to pass these around if you're interested in them. This is all available obviously on Microsoft documentation, but you're fully capable of adding custom security on M365 Basic with some level of configuration. Some of the major changes here, so advanced threat protection will basically have, additional functionality. And I believe, yeah, so sandboxing and detonation, right, are specific to Plan 1, for example. Zero-day malware detection is in Plan 1, so on and so forth. And so this is an extra call out here that you can see here. The differences at a high level is that your safe link and attachments are available as of Plan 1 and Plan 2. And then your advanced threat explorer and auto investigation and your attack simulations are also only available in further plans here. And you get the AI anti-phishing as of Plan 1.
There's a question in the Q&A from David about the license requirements for Defender, if it's one-to-one or one-to-many. Correct me if I'm wrong, Robbie, but I believe it's one-to-one, one per user.
One-to-one, yes. And I don't actually have the answer on XDR. We'd have to verify. I think XDR says separate component, not necessarily included or directly tied to this functionality.
Gotcha. Most licenses for Microsoft are one-to-one.
Yep.
You might get some features unlocked if you just buy one, but Microsoft, it's against their licensing terms of service.
Yeah, and we like these types of questions, so we will follow through with you and let you know. Someone asked what is included in M365. So if we're talking M365 basic and standard, then you're talking about EOP, and that's a great point. I meant to mention it. If you're talking about M365 business premium, then you get your Defender Plan 1 included. And Defender Plan 2 is an additional purchase.
Yeah.
Good call out, Joseph. Did you want to jump into, oh yeah, so before we go through the Microsoft portal, this was an interesting call out as you review the documentation to really get a clear understanding of how you're supposed to stack your policies. And I guess the point is that your policies don't stack, and keep that in mind. And so when you look at the documentation, this is the breakdown from Microsoft that they will process basically the message and then classify it as either like malware, high confidence phishing, then fall to spam, spoofing, so on and so forth. And you can't change this this precedence basically. So if something gets triggered and caught under spam, or then it can't, or sorry, the other way around. If something gets caught as phishing, you can't make it catch your spam rules. So phishing will take precedence over spam and so on and so forth, which is why you got to create your policies accordingly. And it can't be available in both.
Yeah, so it's a little different than conditional access policies.
Yep. And this is kind of the one and done approach. So what it is there's not only are there hard-coded values in which policies will impact first, but within the set of policies, you've got and we'll talk about those in a moment, but you've got your strict, your standard, your custom, then the safe links and safe attachments, and then your built-in. So basically the first one that hits is where the processing stops, right? So if you've got a malware, that's going to hit for a malware is detected in an email. It's going to go to your anti-malware policies and go down this list of your your malware policies. If it's an anti-phishing, then it'll go to anti-phishing, then your anti-phishing list, like here. And then whichever hits first. So you want to make sure that you're not overlapping groups or users within the different policies, or that you're setting specific exclusions if you have to, for some reason, have in quotes, have to have overlap in your policies. Because if you wanted to have a custom threat policy, sorry, that applies to David, but he's also included in standards applying, and there's no way you can change that. So either don't include him there in the first place, or make sure you set an exclusion in it. So say you're including a group that's got David, but you're excluding him specifically. And just watch out for that, because it's a way to get stuck in the trap of, oh yes, I want to have these additional custom policies. So you come back later based on the request and make updates to it, and you forget to go modify your standard or strict that had applied to specific groups or users, and then your new rules will never take effect.
Yeah. I find that visibility in the Microsoft Defender portal itself is kind of tricky to see if there are any of those gaps. So staying on top of it during the original design um,
Yep.
is important.
And of course, banging the typical MSP drum. I think you guys know this, but why is it so hard? Obviously, you guys have to figure out the set of policies you want to use. As far as we can see, most people want to at least add some custom policies, aren't necessarily just setting everyone to either a strict or standard preset. And then you're having to replicate those sets of 5 policies across multiple customers. Um, you want to ensure that that deployment across all those customers is consistent, which can become extremely messy when you have multiple policies impacting, say, your C-suite versus regular users, etc. And then once you've actually got that pat down and you've got SOPs that you're following, which takes a ton of time to do manually, how do you generate efficiency out of that? How do you get around going to customer 1, customer 2, customer 3, so on and so forth in an effective manner? And you're typically dealing with your in private browser, sessions, and of course, slow portals. This is a screenshot I took trying to take screenshots because the portal was taking so long to load.
Yeah. That's I mean, I can just kind of try to hammer in the point of efficiency and timeline. I'm going to steal this screen from Robbie, and just quickly go through the process. I'm going to set up a quick Defender policy, and I'm going to set a timer, and we can see how long it takes me. It's not going to be anything complicated. And I'm going to pass it back off to Robbie to see how it can be handled a little bit more efficiently at scale.
I think I may have done it wrong here. I'll stop sharing. I thought I allowed you, but yeah, there we go.
Nice. This is a demo account, so if you see a terrible secure score, please don't judge me too badly. This is a this is not our active account. So I'm going to start a timer here, and so going over to email and collaboration policies and rules. I do have good internet here, so I'm hoping that this won't take too long. But I'm going to create a new threat policy. It's loading. I want to should I do an anti-phishing or an anti-spam?
Doesn't matter. Do both.
All right. So here's the slow portal that Robbie was mentioning. So you can see here, we've got some of the default ones and some of the ones that look like we were created within Augmentt. But I'm going to just create a test policy and a really good description for all my texts to know what this does. And I'm going to select all company as a group. Now, just to echo Robbie's point, when you're creating policies, you don't want to necessarily do all companies because you may have specific exclusions. You might want something more specific for your C-suite executives than you would for your lower level employees. Now, in this case, right now I'm setting it to 1, but I'm going to crank it up to more aggressive. I'm going to enable users to protect this. I guess another limit, it only protects up to 350 users. So you want to be controlled around the groups that you have configured. And it has sometimes they have some nice tooltips that include information about what they mean by that. But I'm going to leave pretty much everything else there basic. I'm not making a huge amount of changes. to it, and I'm going to quarantine this message if it's detected as user impersonation. I'm going to apply the quarantine policy. And if it's reject the message, if the message is detected as spoof, move the message to junk. And I'm going to click on the recommended one there. I'm going to review it. That all looks good, but maybe I missed a checkbox. Maybe I missed a drop down. It's very easy with the amount of fields that were there. I'm going to submit it. And wow, I've created that policy. It took me 2 minutes with a little bit of banter in there. 2 minutes 19, a little bit of banter. So let's call it 2 minutes. Even if I had to do 5 policies, it's 10 minutes. That was just in the anti-phishing threat policies. So 10 minutes per company. That was me winging it. It would probably take more time if I was being diligent around what I was actually selecting,
Yeah,
going off
actually
of a
picking
reference.
users and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So a generous 10 minutes to do 5 policies in an environment, multiply that out across 10 customers, 50 customers, 100 customers, and you can kind of see the problem where um, it's it can be very time consuming, and it's also really easy to make mistakes when you want them to be very carefully curated.
Yeah, and we typically see more than one policy per section as well, or at
Yeah,
least for the
absolutely.
anti-phish and yeah, anti-malware. Different levels essentially.
Yeah.
Let's
Kick
see
that back
here.
over to Robbie.
Yeah, last point on this one is um, obviously you should be aware that you can absolutely automate this should you choose to. Um, I mean, they've got a great API. It's how products like ours are able to do it.
Mhm.
But of course, if you have in-house dev, that's, absolutely up to you and an option, and you should be aware that that's available in the documentation. Of course, we think there's a simpler way, and you can let another tool probably handle it for you while you focus on generating revenue. But let's jump into, at this point, how can Augmentt help, right? Uh, you know what the policies are, you know the value, you're trying to bring that value to your customers, you're trying to do it efficiently. So how would that be done? So I'll just switch to, there we go, different screen here. I'm running an ultra wide, so I can't just share my whole UI because then people tell me they can't read. I don't blame them. Let me just find my browser. Here we go. No, wrong browser. Now we're in Augmentt. So I want to touch on a few things. We want to talk about the presets actually. So when it comes to the preset, you'll see here, you can find the documentation. We can pass this link around as well, actually, in case you're interested in it before I jump into Augmentt. Yeah, of course, it minimized you guys. There's a nice link. It shows you the difference between what you get out of the box. So if you've only got EOP versus Defender Plan 1 and uh, enabling strict or standard presets. So you can't really modify too much the defaults, and then you've got your standard and strict, which again are hard-coded with slight configurations in them. And you'll be able to see some of the default configurations per policy type that are available here. So for example, your default is a 7 in bulk, you move to 6 standard, 5 on it. So just break down on what happens if you're not choosing to create custom policies and simply using the out-of-box stuff. What we've seen though is our customers typically want to create and have created a set of successful policies. They've got this running either in their environment or a customer environment. And now you want to deploy this to any of your customers and you want to do it consistently. So what we would do in this case And if you haven't seen Augmentt before, if you've seen Augmentt before and you're here to see how we do the Defender policies, I think you'll be rejoiced to know that it works just like our conditional access policies. And so what you do is you can see your complete environment as it is today, right? So we don't want you to go blindly push policies and expect a great outcome, right? Meet you where you are. What do we have in place today? And so you can easily go through all the policy types on a tenant, see the policies that exist today. Then I can go and template out what I want to standardize on. So obviously in our test environment, we've done a bunch of that here, but I can show you quickly how you would go to create a policy. And that policy can be anywhere, right? You don't need a golden tenant living somewhere that you can only choose from. It doesn't need to be in your internal tenant either. You can pick any tenant, any type of policy, and import it into Augmentt. We'll show you the details of that policy so you know you're picking the right one. Again, give it that fancy title and just create it. And now it exists in Augmentt forever. And what you'll do is you'll import as many anti-phish, anti-malware, safe attachments, so on policies. And then you can start deploying them to tenants, or you can baseline them so that you have a group of policies. And this is a combination of your anti-phish, your anti-spam, inbound, outbound, your safe attachments, your anti-malware, all in a single configuration that you can reuse over and over across your customers to ensure that you're deploying that standard. So to deploy that standard, go back to our list of policies and then simply choose your policy or your baseline. You'll find your baselines in the list. You can see everything that's in that baseline. So again, you know what you're deploying. In order to save you from having to create too many baselines, you could simply say, this is the baseline I want, but I've got, this customer, I don't want to do the safe attachments in this case. And then still move forward with your baseline. And then basically just roll that out. I've already done that a bunch of times on this tenant.
Leave it
Yeah.
alone.
And then we keep removing them and re-adding them. But it's that simple to say have two of each and the different levels. And you'll see that actually as I click through here, it'll actually allow me to choose my users, my groups, my domains, set your exclusions, one per, right, very quickly, and then roll them out. So that creates that consistency and obviously just that effectiveness of moving really, really quick through a UI. The other thing
The
that Augmentt
just to
is,
really
yeah, go for
like
it.
hammer in home the value add there is we don't want the people on your team like Microsoft information is super valuable. Um, and not everybody has the depth or the training or the certification within Microsoft that you're going to be hiring, that you're going to be having on part of your level 1 or 2 tech support team. So you want to make it really easy for someone to build the policy stack that you want for Defender or conditional access policy, and then task that to people to go and deploy it consistently without error, and have it reportable back to whoever's managing that account, to ensure that they're protected properly, without having to have someone know which enter portal do they need to go to, which settings, which fields do they need to go to. Microsoft is constantly changing where their menus are stashed away. So you want to make it really, really easy for you guys to be able to do it consistently at scale without needing a degree in Microsoft to affect those changes.
Yep, exactly. Perfect statement. You can, define what the policy is, and then the ticket to the more junior technician can be deploy baseline 1 to these 10 customers, and you'll get baseline 1 versus go in IT Glue, search for this SOP. It'll be these 5 policies. Make sure you click through and don't miss a check. That's a little more dicey.
Yeah.
Obviously, the other thing we're really strong on when it comes to policies is helping you identify where the weaknesses are, right? So actually audit an environment, identify where the recommendations are for security standards, and then apply those security standards. And so we just showed you how to apply them consistently. But if you're new to this and you're not sure which security standards you're trying to address, you can actually see in the environment, based on the security recommendations, which ones are Defender related, which ones are conditional access, or just general additional security recommendations. We have 134 right now in our audit and continuing to grow. And these are based on the Microsoft Secure Score. They're aligned to the relevant standards as well. So if you're trying to standardize, you'll be able to find out what is not compliant. For example, do I have any? I think we've turned so much stuff on. Here's one, right? So I don't have my safe links for Office enabled currently. I would be able to then know this is a deficiency. And so what happens is sometimes you've got a standard set of policies. You're pretty sure it's good. You deploy it. Everything looks good. If you look, my policies are what I'm expecting as per my SOP. Well, it turns out Microsoft released some new features, and you don't have them enabled. And so simply saying, do my policies match this other tenant is good from an efficiency perspective. Doesn't guarantee that you're getting the outcomes that you're looking for. And so we work on that efficiency, but we also help you with the outcomes. Make sure that the outcome in the end is what you're looking for. So if you've deployed it, but you haven't assigned any users, or you assigned an empty group by mistake, you won't get the score from Microsoft. The users won't be impacted or protected, and you'll actually realize.
Yeah. Or the group all users that you think that you applied it to isn't a dynamic group. So it doesn't actually include all users. We've seen that before.
Yep. There was a good question here. So does Augmentt include integration with M365 Lighthouse, which is where all MSPs are managing their tenants with GDAP access? So in fact, we have a lot of partners that start using Lighthouse, discover that Augmentt exists, and we don't integrate with Lighthouse. We're integrated with CSP and GDAP, and you can create GDAP relationships through Augmentt to then use across your customers, obviously, in our product. And so we go well beyond the limitations of what's available in Lighthouse.
Yeah, just to expand on that, it's a single integration that you do into your environment that gets propagated out to all the customers that you want who are connected to your partner center. So it's very, very quick and efficient to add 10 customers, 50, 100, 200, however many you're partnered with.
Yep.
And if there's any problems within the relationship, we have a tool that will highlight where things need to change, and we make it easy for you to request new relationships.
For those that are existing Augmentt partners on this call, I believe there were many of you. This is included in your secure autopilot licensing. So as long as you had access to conditional access, you have access to this. If you're still on Secure Premium and you're interested in alert auto remediation, conditional access management, Defender policy management, just reach out to us. Anyone at Augmentt will get you in touch with your account manager, and we can get that upgrade going. If you're new to us and you want a fuller demo, we're not going to, I mean, this is meant to be as much as possible, value add webinar where we tell you a little bit about how Microsoft does things, help you discover, new complexity, and of course, a little more about our product. So please reach out to us. We'll be happy to give you a full demo of the full power of Augmentt. I'll leave it open for another minute or so here for if any other questions want to filter in. We'd be happy to help and answer any questions relating to Defender policies or Augmentt in general. And otherwise, thank you everyone for your time. We appreciate you joining, and we'll see you on the next webinar. Jared, absolutely. We'll get someone to reach out.
Making someone's day.
Yep.
Awesome. And yeah, if anybody has any other requests for webinars within Microsoft, topics that we can cover, we've done MFA, conditional access, Defender. I mean, it's an endless pool for us to get into. We only really touched a little bit on Defender. There's a lot that it can do. I saw conversations in the chat about like attack simulation training. That's actually a tool that we use internally at Augmentt. I'm the information security officer here. I use it to the annoyance of our team here, where I send phishing simulations to our team, and since I started doing that, we've gotten very good report cards from that. But I get pretty clever. I copy like Zoom invite emails. I go after our development team, copying like GitHub pull request emails, things, thinking like, how could, if I were trying to phish someone, what would be a really clever way to do that? Um,
He's so good at it that I then send him normal spam emails that I get, and I go, "Hi, you tried to get me, it didn't work." And he's like, "That one's not me, that's real."
yeah.
Josh asked the question, is blocking direct send available? So for existing partners, direct send or anyone interested in understanding. So direct send is a feature of Microsoft where you can pass through port 25, basically emails without authentication. Microsoft recently released a uh, a way to block that feature. It previously wasn't. It's on our roadmap, so we're hoping to get through it in this quarter and release it. But definitely, we're getting a lot of demand for that. We can see why, and it will become a configurable item. So our list will definitely jump to at least 135.
It's one of those frustrating vulnerabilities where these tech companies know that they exist, but due to the user experience that would be impacted, they decide not to fix it. Another example recently was pretty much every major password manager was told there was a vulnerability where an attacker on a fake website could prompt the user for their password with the password manager, but have it in a invisible modal pop-up. So the user doesn't know that they've actually like entered their password information, allowing the attacker to then steal those tokens and act on their behalf. And all of the password managers basically said, "Yeah, we know that's an issue. We're not going to fix it because that would require a user to enter their password or click log me in, and then click another modal saying, 'Are you sure you want to log in?' And they said they've tried that in the past. No one liked it, so we're not going to fix it."
All right, people have realized we're
Yeah.
at the end of this webinar. They're dropping off.
Yeah.
We
Dropping off.
appreciate your time, guys,
Yeah.
everyone. Have yourselves a good one.
Thank you very much.